What's up? What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Lorraine, as you already know. But if this is your first time, welcome aboard. On this channel, we talk about any and everything self-therapy. So if you're not ready to do the work, this may not be the channel for you. Don't forget to show your support by subscribing to my channel, turning on your post notification bell so whenever I post new content, you are notified first. Guys, whenever you watch my videos, if you like them, leave me a thumbs up, drop a comment down below. Let me hear what your thoughts are. All right, so without further ado, let's get right into the video. So, my beautiful people. All right, so today we're going to be talking about codependency. Right? So, honestly, I learned some new things when I was doing my research on this topic, and I did not know that those were considered some traits of codependency, right? So, what is codependency? So, the best way to define that is when a person excessively relies on somebody else, emotionally or psychologically. So, just to explain that, when somebody depends so much on another person that it really affects how they operate. One of the big things, I need this person to make me happy, right? That's kind of a trait of codependency or a codependent person, because in reality, nobody else can make you happy, right? That you could have happy moments together. There's things that this person could do, but nobody can constantly keep you happy. It's just not possible. Well, that's my opinion. It's one of those things where they constantly expect somebody else to provide that support for them to feel a certain kind of way. For instance, a lot of people are very codependent in relationships. So what tend to happen is one person diminish, like they kind of like shrink in the relationship. And that also puts a lot of pressure on the other person, but we'll definitely get into that later. But that's what I mean when I say codependency, or a person that's codependent on somebody else. Now, I will say this, it's very easy to fall into that category, because I feel like the lines of being codependent is very thin, especially when you get into a romantic relationship. I feel like the lines are very tight. Just understanding what it is and identifying some of the traits can help you to actually set healthy boundaries in any kind of relationship that you guys get into. One of the main signs of codependency is a person that constantly seeks the approval of not just people, but let's talk about, for the sake of a relationship, you constantly seek the approval of that person. If I'm looking back and just being honest about my life, I think I was somewhat codependent in my past relationship. Yeah. Now that I understand, now that I understand what are some of the those traits, what it looks like, I definitely was a somewhat codependent. But yeah, so you constantly look for approval. You don't necessarily think about yourself first, and while that could be good sometimes because that shows that you're not a selfish person, but it also could be unhealthy because you matter as well. You kind of minimize what you're feeling, or just completely disregard what you feel, what you like, and start taking on the likings of somebody else. All right. Another thing is your self-worth often depends on what somebody else feel about you, or how worthy somebody else think you are. That is not healthy. Self-worth is, you should know what your worth is. You should know. And if there's something else that's driving that feeling of worthlessness, then that's something that you have to work on in you. But your self-worth should not be driven by what somebody else think about you. Okay? So as I mentioned before, some of the signs of codependency are somebody that is constantly changing their mood based on what somebody else does. For instance, you see that a lot into relationships, like, if your partner doesn't bring you that flowers, or that partner doesn't say, hey, I love you, or something outside of the norm or what you expected, then your mood will change. Right, so that's one way to identify, like, your emotions are dependent on what this other person does. Another thing is excessively prioritizing this person or others over yourself, on account of fear of being rejected or fear of being left alone. So you do even things that you don't necessarily want to do. So you overcompensate on account of just try not to lose that person. Or the other thing is the tendency to apologize for something that don't necessarily need an apology. What happens is you are so scared of creating a conflict, or causing a conflict with that person, so you find that, okay, you're right, yes, that's fine. So you become this yes person, and you kind of disregard what you truly feel on account of avoiding some kind of conflict, or avoiding standing up for yourself. Right? And I think that kind of also stems back to, you don't want this person to leave. So you're going to do everything that you think you should or can do in order to save the relationship. And the one thing I want to say is, a quick side note, is that you can't be in a situation or a relationship with anybody and feel like you can hold it up by yourself. Both of you should want to be in that situation. Anytime it gets where you feel like you have to carry the weight of that relationship, it's no longer a relationship. Another thing is, you often feel guilty if you should take time or do something for yourself, because you became so complacent in doing everything else for that other person or those people, that when you actually get the chance to do something for yourself, it's almost like a sense of guilt come over you, because you feel like you're not supposed to be doing this. And last but not least, I would say, if we kind of like go more into depth of what codependency is, I'm sure there's so many more things that you can look at to identify if you are or not. One of the big things is that we constantly put that pressure on our partners a lot of the times by expecting them to read our minds, or expecting them to like what we like, and if they don't, it's like, oh, something is wrong, oh, you don't love me. You constantly measure the love that somebody has for you based on what they like versus what you like and what you desire. Right? And that's a huge one. That's like that puts a lot of pressure on a lot of relationships. That's whether romantic, friendships, family members. It could be a relationship with a mom. The expectation for a person to constantly be supportive to you. Right? I think that's one way to measure your codependency, by looking into yourself and looking what weight are you carrying in your relationship, and find out how much support are you looking for, and are you expecting the other person to neglect themselves to make sure that they're constantly there for you, or vice versa, are you neglecting yourself in order to prioritize somebody else? So that's something to think about, guys. All right, so now jumping into the next portion of the video. Well, I mean the same video, but let's just get on to the comparison between codependency and dependency. It's easily misconstrued, but it's not the same, and you guys need to understand that it is not the same. Dependency is can somewhat be healthy if it's not overdone. Right? I feel like we all have to depend on other people in some way, right? Because when you get into a relationship or a partnership with a person, it feels, I think it's very healthy to have some kind of support when you both can lean on each other, as long as it's not excessive, right? As long as it's not you denying yourself in order to support that person, or vice versa. I think there are some healthy boundaries when it comes to dependency or being dependent on your partner. I do believe that interdependent relationships, it works. It benefits both parties. Not only because you're not minimizing yourself, but you are more so you're focusing on supporting each other, but still understanding what the value of taking care of yourself is. Right? Makes sense? Yeah. So somewhat dependency is not all bad. It's not all bad, guys. Okay, so I just wanted to read these for you because I had these notes where it says healthy dependence also means you state your own needs and desires. You ask for support when you find yourself struggling. You feel safe and comfortable expressing your own needs, and you let others know when they're asking too much of you without worrying they'll reject you. Where does codependency stem from? Just like most things, it's kind of like learned behavior or just a way of protecting yourself. So this could be something from childhood. So could be how you were treated as a child, maybe how your parents handled things. They did not have solid boundaries, and you find that this is showing up in your adult life. Somebody possibly left when you were a kid and you felt rejected and neglected, and so therefore this is a coping mechanism for you. This is a way of coping. So you find that again you overcompensate on account of being fearful of somebody else leaving. So what I also wanted to put into that is if that's your approach and your thought process, sometimes you end up into a relationship that you don't necessarily need to be in, or you stay in friendships longer than you really need to be in on account of fear of being rejected or left, right? So this is where it becomes unhealthy, because then you don't necessarily make what is considered the right choices, and that could be anything that is beneficial to what you desire, what you would like, but rather your decisions are influenced by how somebody else feels or what somebody else like, and you constantly put yourself on the back burner to accommodate other people at the expense of your own happiness or your own joy. But yeah, you don't generally speak up. You become a yes person because saying yes is going to make them happy, and that's your goal, right? Wrong. You matter as well. And you have to learn to find that balance and be able to set healthy boundaries with anybody that comes in your life. It's never a one-sided thing, and anytime it becomes one-sided or you start feeling guilt for doing things for yourself, then you definitely are brushing the lines of being excessively dependent on somebody else. All right, so I hope, guys, this helped somewhat. I know that it was an eye-opener for me. I mean, I don't think I'm that way anymore, but I've definitely had there was a time where I can honestly say I do believe I was codependent in a relationship. Yeah, you live, you learn, and you grow, right? So I hope that you guys like this video. If you do, please leave me a thumbs up. Show your support by subscribing to my channel, turning on your post notification bell so whenever I post new content, you are notified first. Drop a comment down below. Let me hear what your thoughts are.